Ken, welcome back. Looking forward to this.
My pleasure. Great to be back.
And how have you been?
Oh, man, good. I live in Florida now.
Oh, you did? You moved?
Oh, yeah, we're done. We sold the house in Connecticut and moved to Florida in full-time in July.
Was that done because of demographics?
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, my forecast for Florida is we're about 23 million right now. And comfortably, I would say in the next 10 years, we'll be up to 35 million. You cannot believe what's going on down here. I mean, you just can't. I mean, with the amount of development that's going on, and it's, boomer driven, and then all the people to support the boomers, it's an exciting place to be.
Well, good for you. How did you get involved in demography?
We lost a client. I was in the marketing business back in, prior to the year 2000, and we lost American Honda motorcycles. We had 140 dealers. Lost a client because all the dealers went out of business, and we couldn't figure out why. And it was because we determined later that it was because the boomers just aged out of the demo that bought the Honda motorcycle, which was 16 to 24 years old. So I jumped in, and it just overwhelmed me, really, because it was such an incredible science, and I knew I had made a discovery that essentially nobody else understood, and that is that demography is destiny, big time.
It really is, and you really need to predict it. And most companies or marketing companies should have a great demographer on staff. I bet they don't have a lot out there.
No. It is kind of weird. You want to, in fact, if you, I tell folks to do this. I said, you want to freak out? I said, go to Google, put in Ken, not my last name, just Ken demographer, and see what happens. Google. I'm the only Ken. Yeah, and it's very cool. No, people, it's weird, George, because people think when they ask me to see. What do you do? And I said, I'm a demographer. And then there's that puzzled look. And then they say, did you make maps? And I said, no, that's cartographer. It's not a popular science, and it's weird. I can't understand it. I can't understand it why there aren't millions of us, because it's so interesting. And there's certainly millions of economists. What's that about?
Not only is it interesting, Ken, it is so important, Mike. I think every corporation should be pinpointing their demographics. How many of them really understand who they're selling to?
None. No, that's the whole. And you know what? That is an excellent point. I ask people. I'm going to be speaking to an audience of about 700, all things being equal, at the end of this month, that produce food service equipment. And the question I have for them, I said, what's the most important question in marketing? Period. Just period. And that is, how many people are in my market? And is my market getting bigger or smaller? Because if it's getting smaller, I'm cooked. If it's getting bigger, I have opportunity and better take advantage of it.
Can you change your market size by changing your products?
Yeah, of course you can. And that's what we recommend. If you're in a market where your products are, where your market is shrinking, you better change your products, because otherwise you're going to go out of business. Once a market starts to shrink, there's almost nothing you can do. I don't care how clever you are. I don't care how good your advertising is. I don't care how skilled your people are or how good your product is. If you don't have somebody to sell it to, you're cooked.
That's right.
You can't do it. So that's in the reverse of that works. I mean, I'm a Mustang nut, and I have a 1965 Mustang. And here's the math on Mustang, and it's weird because Lee Iacocca went to Henry Ford and said, the baby boomers want a lightweight two-door car that's powerful and fun to drive. We're making the wrong car. And, he finally persuaded Henry Ford to make the car. If he sold 100,000 units in the model year 1965, which included 64 and a half, 100,000 units, he would have been a hero. If they sold 700,000, they could have sold, the estimate is 4 million.
Wow.
That would have changed Ford forever. Yeah.
He was a genius.
So, yeah, well, it's because he understood the baby boomer.
Yep, he did. I had a 68 Mustang Coupe. I wish I still had it.
You sold it?
I sold it. I sold it like when I was 22 years old.
Well, see, that's what's wrong with you, George. Our car, my 65 has literally been in the family since 1980.
What's it worth today? Because it was about $2,500 then, right?
Yeah, well, that was with the, and I've got a special car because I have the Mustang K Coupe, which is totally stock and it's a high performance car. And out of the 700,000 that they made, I think they only made a couple thousand of the K Coupes. So my car is probably worth, I'm guessing, somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000 now.
Today, exactly.
Yeah, well, yeah. So that's but the boomers are. I don't know why all of a sudden boomers are back into buying these vintage cars, but the boomers have money. You know what they're worth? You know what boomers are worth now? If you counted the amount of money they have in the stock market, which is about 20 billion, and you also count the amount that they have in real estate, which is about no, it's not. It's $1 billion or $1 trillion. I'm freaking out on that. They're worth $100 trillion, $100 trillion, and they're going to be spending their money, and they don't have dying on their punch list. So it's going to be interesting for our economy.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what do you use as the principles of demographics? What are they? What are your basics?
Live births, migration or immigration, and deaths. Now, those are the three principal ones, and the one that is actually the most important now is aging, because the populations constantly move, and that's something again that folks don't understand. That demographics is principally math, just math. If you understand that your market today, if your market was an 18 to 34-year-old man or woman, is not going to be the same 5 years from now because they're aging. And you need to understand where big populations are and where small populations are, because otherwise you'll never understand your market.
Absolutely. And when you're developing something to sell, do you have to weigh the price, you have to weigh who's going to buy it, who's going to use it, and then you have to weigh how you're going to reach them to let them know about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But the most important of the three things that you just mentioned is how big is my market?
Right.
Because if it's getting, and that's everything, is how big is my market? And I've got endless stories about how people miscalculated. I mean, Levi Strauss, the Levi jeans, they sold their product to an 18 to 34-year-old man or woman, not realizing that the baby boomer was going to age out of their market, and their business fell from like $8 billion to $3 in 2 or 3 years.
Wow!
You can't screw around.
Wow. You cited one of the times you were on with me last, the Harley-Davidson story. Tell us about that again, too.
Well, we sold for American Honda. We had 140 American Honda dealers, and we could not figure out that. American Honda called me from California, chief marketing officer, and said, "Ken, what the heck is going on? Are you running our ads? Because we don't have any traffic in our stores." He said, "In this slug of a bike called Harley-Davidson, it leaks oil, can't get out of its own way, just makes a lot of noise, very, very heavy, is selling like crazy. What's going on?" Well, what was happening is the boomer moved out of the Honda market and moved into the Harley market. But effective roughly 2005, boomers can't hold them up at lights anymore. These things weigh, the biggest Harleys almost weigh 1,000 pounds.
I know, that's right.
That's almost half a car. And so the Harley's business, 2005, 2006, 2007, after they made all the dealers build these Taj Mahal of dealerships, stopped selling. It just stopped selling. Why? Because boomers have aged out of the market. Now, a lot of, they're coming up with a third wheel on these things. They make trikes out of them. But, it's not working. It's just not. Boomers are aging. Boomers are going to affect other markets, and Harley is history. I tell folks, I said, if you have a Harley, you should sell it about 3 years ago.
How do you assess that market you want to go after in terms of the size? How do you know what's good, what's not?
Well, if you look at the population of the United States, let's just
300 million. Let's just say that.
Well, 330 million. Yeah, and the population that was born 1925 to 1944 is called the silent generation, and there's 50 million people. There's the total number of people that were born, and there was no immigration during that period because it was too difficult during the Depression, and during the war it was illegal. Then you have a generation, 1945 to 1964, called the baby boomers. Baby boomers are 80 million. Baby boomers, for the most part, are still alive, and they're extremely wealthy with like $100 trillion of value that they have, including their real estate. The next generation, the generation born 1965 to 1984, is small, and that was the one that we discovered called Generation X. Generation X is roughly 69 million people. It's fully 10 million people plus, smaller than the baby boomers. So we have a hole in our population, a hole. It is a dip. We have a big bell-shaped curve of boomers, and then we have a hole in our population called Generation X. And these are the people right now that are 37 to 56 years old, and they're the people who are causing all the employment problems that we're having because there aren't enough of them to fill the shoe of the retiring baby boomers. And the baby boomers are retiring now at the rate of 4 million a year.
Wow.
So, yeah. So what you want to do, George, is you always, when you have a product, you always want to look at the market and the generation that is headed your way or leaving you. And so if you're in the healthcare business like right now, and I'm forecasting that healthcare is about to explode because boomers don't have dying on their punch list and they have a lot of money. So I think we're really going to get a handle on cancer, on heart disease, and on Alzheimer's. Why? Because there's going to be such a concentration on that branch of our healthcare. And I think that.
Hold on for a second, Ken. We're at a break. We'll come back and pick it up right there on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast to Coast. George Norrie with you, along with Ken Grunback. We'll take calls with Ken next hour here on Coast to Coast. Ken, the world's population right now is around 7.9 billion. They say in about 28 years it's going to hit 9.9 billion. You think healthcare will continue to skyrocket?
Oh, yeah, big time. Well, the healthcare is going to be a product of the baby boomers in the short term. Because the baby boomers have money, the body breaks at age 75. The baby boomers are 57 to 76 years old. It's a collision, and it's like a market. There's a market for healthcare, and the market for healthcare is baby boomers, and it's because baby boomers can make a difference, and they're going to. But overall, long term, the population of the world is going to increase probably up to about 12 billion or so, 10, 12 billion, and then it's going to begin to decrease. And I don't want to be here then.
What will cause it to decrease? What will happen?
Well, one of the things that the cause for it decreasing is fertility. We're just not going to reproduce. And that's a problem. It's a serious problem right now. It's especially a serious problem in countries that mandate fewer births, like China, and they're trying to fix it, and they can't. It's impossible to fix right now.
They've gone too far now, haven't they?
Well, it depends on who you listen to. If you listen to me, they're missing under 40 years old 500 million people, 500 million people that simply don't exist because they weren't born, and there's a variety of reasons for that. If you listen to Elon Musk, he said it's closer to 750 million. Yeah, it's a serious problem, and you just spoke about inflation. One of the biggest issues going to be with inflation is the stuff from China is going to increase in price because they don't have cheap labor anymore.
Exactly.
And it's going to have to be made here. Salaries are going up, and the cost of stuff is going to go up big time. Might
there be wars, Ken, over demographics?
That's a good point, and that remains to be seen. I think what we're seeing right now with China and another country that I love so much is North Korea with Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
They're always threatening war. It's always just right around the corner, and that's what you do when you can't feed your population. And I think what's going to happen with China is China literally has hundreds of millions, and I'm not making that up, hundreds of millions of elderly people that they cannot feed.
Oh my God!
And it's going to get a lot worse. And which is what leads me to believe that the virus was manufactured as a solution. But that's subjectivity. I do not have data to support that.
Well, there's no doubt it was created in that Wuhan lab. The reason why, who knows? But you could be right. You could be right.
Yeah, but think about it. If you can't feed your population, and they can't. If you can't feed your population, it's just like North Korea with Kim Jong-un. He can't feed his population. So what is he about to do? We're going to war tomorrow. We're always going to war, and therefore you can keep your population in control. And I think that's what China is doing.
And they're telling me the average age of those who die from COVID is 83. So that matches your theory about an elderly population.
Yeah, well, the COVID virus stats, 80 plus, 15% of the people that get it die, 80 plus. 70 to 79, about 8% of the people die. 60 to 69, about 4% of the people die, and then it falls off precipitously.
Right.
You may get sick, but you're not going to die. It kills elderly people, period.
Is it because the elderly people have other ailments too?
Sure, comorbidity. Comorbidity is like 50% of the cases. Yeah, they've got something else. George, you and I are getting old. We don't want to admit it, right?
The clock is ticking.
The clock is ticking. Well, as you get old, and I tell folks, I say the magic number is 75. At 75, the body starts to break, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just you're not going to live forever. And I do believe that because the United States gets good health care and the people that maintain, the people that are vaccinated and the people that are taking care of themselves, we're going to live comfortably into our 80s, some of us into our 90s, but we are going to die. And I do think that we're going to get a handle on the issues of the major things that kill us, which are cancer and heart disease. So it's going to be an interesting time. We have an interesting future ahead of us. We really do. There are so many exciting things that are happening. It's a great time to be alive.
Demographically, what excites you right now as a demographer?
Well, I'll tell you. I love the United States. I'm a patriot. I really am. But put that aside for a second. The United States managed to have a population called the millennials, and the millennials are currently 17 to 36 years old, and there's 88 million of them. It is going to sustain our country economically for the next 20, 30, 40 years, comfortably, huge. An economy that we don't understand. It is going to be wonderful, and it's going to be huge, and that is very, very exciting to me. The rest of the world does not have a Generation Y millennial. They just don't have them. They weren't born. EU doesn't have them. Eastern Europe doesn't have them. Russia doesn't have them. Asia doesn't have them. Southeast Asia doesn't have them. We're watching very, very closely. We're watching the continent of Africa, but it's hard to get good information. But the African continent is still having plenty of kids, but that's almost a separate issue.
Ken, I've got 6 grandkids, 2 great-grandkids, and they have all ages. But one is a 14-year-old grandson, and this little kid's a genius. He will call me up and ask for computer parts. He said, "Papa, can you buy this for me? Can you do this? Can you do this?" So I'll buy him little computer parts and have them shipped to him. And the kid's got him up and running in a day. I couldn't do that at all. I mean, these kids, these young kids are geniuses technologically with all these things, smartphones and on gizmos, and they know it all.
freaks you out, doesn't it? I mean, I tell folks, I get complaints all the time. They say, where's the labor market in the United States? Nobody wants to work. Well, I said, relax. What's going to happen is we have a generation of young people called Generation Y millennials who are 17 to 36 years old. There's 88 million of them. It's going to be all the labor you ever dreamed of. And not only will it be all the labor that you ever dreamed of, but it's going to be at a level that we don't understand.
Smart labor.
I think I told the story about my son-in-law, and my son-in-law was tasked by his employer to who lost several $1 billion in California on the fires. When
absolutely.
Company. Well, my son-in-law came up with an app on the phone. He came up with an app. You take a picture of a house, you answer some questions, and it'll tell you whether to insure it or not, or how much to insure it for. And listen, I can't turn the light off on my phone. I don't. How do you put an app in a phone? I mean, seriously.
I can do that, but I know what you're saying. I mean, these kids know all about that. They know video games. They know things, and it's not just a 14-year-old. I've got a 10-year-old granddaughter. She's just as good as he is.
No, your grandchildren are representative of what is headed our way. What we need to do is we need to recognize it. We need to stop calling them names. We need to welcome them into our culture, and we need to realize that they're different.
Do they change as they get older and get into a different demographic?
Well, what the best example of that is the fact right now we're losing a conservative every 16 seconds because they're dying, and we're gaining a liberal every 8 seconds because they're coming of age to vote. But what happens? We have this huge crop of young people who tend to be progressive liberals, tend to be progressive.
Right.
And it's a huge group. So what I tell folks is we're in store for and this is not, listen, I'm a Republican, but these are just facts. What we're looking at is at least another 11 years of a liberal White House, at least, because of demographics. It's just the way it is. We have a hole in our population that is 37 to 56. It's not strong enough to become the level of conservative that we need it to be. And then what you have is this young group that is becoming liberal. But here's what happens. Do you remember what Winston Churchill said? He said, if you're under 30 and you're not a liberal, you don't have a heart. And if you're over 30 and you're not a conservative, you don't have a brain. So yes. Don't worry about the millennials. The millennials are one. They're moving out of their parents' homes. They're throwing away all of those trophies they didn't deserve. They're starting households. They're getting married. They're going to have kids.
Are they buying houses?
Are they buying? Well, yeah, if we had them to sell to them, but we don't. Listen, we're 25 million houses short of our needs right now. 25 million.
Wow.
I'll give you an example. What the problem? I speak to the lumber industry, and I said, "How you guys doing?" They said, "Well, we can't cut trees fast enough." And I said, "Why?" I said, "Well, because of housing." So then I talked to the plastics industry, and I also talked to an association of concrete folks. Well, guess what we're going to build our houses out of? We're going to build our houses out of plastic and concrete.
You're probably right.
Oh, yeah. It lasts longer. It's better. I don't know how green it is, but I don't think about that. George, we have a household issue. We have a dwelling issue right now that is bigger than the sky. So what's happening? We just did some major research for Bain Capital Real Estate, and without divulging the nature, well, I'll just give you the nature of it, not the substance.
No, I understand.
But they wanted to know what multifamily housing was going to be, and we told them, and it's going to be huge, huge.
Oh, will there still be bubble bursts? Mortgage issues, financial issues, and stuff like that?
No. The problem we had in 2008, George, is we had too many houses. Now we have too many buyers.
Well, that's good. It's always good to have too many buyers.
Too many buyers. And why do you think that the retail sales were up the highest that they've been in 17 years. It's because all of a sudden, Generation Y millennials, 88 million, are starting households, having kids, having Christmas trees, buying presents. We're fine. The United States our country is the best one on the planet, and demographically, we're the most valid and most solid.
When Jeff Bezos created Amazon with his wife at the time, selling books out of his garage, do you think he saw what is going on today? I mean, the guy's a multi-billionaire. He's selling everything under the sun. Do you think that was his goal and plan?
No, I don't. And, God bless him. And I really admire him. And I admire people who are successful, like you. But do I think that he planned it that way? Did he thought what was going to happen? That he thought that Generation Y millennials were going to embrace this buying online business with a vengeance? No, I don't. I really don't think so. I think it just happened.
He just lucked out. He had a great idea, selling books. I remember when he first started. And we were talking about, this author was selling a book, and everybody would say Amazon.com. And people would say, what's Amazon.com? I said, they're selling books online. If you don't want to go to a bookstore, you just do it this way. And then all of a sudden he exploded.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful to him. I've sold thousands and thousands of books through Amazon.
Yeah. I mean, it's something else. And then someone like Elon Musk, who ends up creating PayPal. How would you ever envision that? No,
I know. God bless him. Elon Musk that's a special human. It really is. But I love the character.
I mean, I like you do just said, God bless them and congratulations to them, because I think it's exciting that people can be so innovative and do so many successful things, and then it seems like everything they touch turns to gold.
Doesn't it? It does seem that way. And again, we're changing, and the Internet is changing us. The Internet, believe it or not, and I guess this is the whole idea of Facebook, one changing their name to what, Meta?
Meta, the corporate name at least.
Yeah, I guess. But the Internet is going to be more and more and more a part of our lives, and robots are going to be more a part of our lives. And we just bought my wife and I just bought a bathroom scale, and and now it's part of our life because it's Internet related.
Really? How's that work?
You tell me. I don't know, but it sends messages to our computer. It tells us, about our weight and about our progress and about things we should do. And I'm thinking, oh, man, I really need another thing involved in my life.
I mean, do you have to go to the Internet to see what your weight is, or does it still show up on the little apparatus?
You can still see it, but it's tied directly to our computer.
That's something. Now, I'm nonpartisan. You said you're Republican. I'm nonpartisan by design because I have to call it the way I see it. What did Trump do wrong? I thought Trump was going to probably get reelected. I didn't like the way he tweeted, and I didn't like the way he acted to people. Did that cave in on him?
Yeah, but his base is shrinking, period. His base is shrinking. And the core of his base and the wealth of his base is dying.
Could he have utilized a different message to reach a different audience? Yeah.
Yes, of course he could have, but he didn't.
He needed demographers like people like you.
Well, you want to know something? One of the things that is an opportunity for me now is the boards of directors want me to come in and spend time with them and tell them what's going to happen and what products to delve into, what products to leave, and ways of doing it. President Trump.
Hold on for that. We'll come back and take calls, and we'll talk about this issue. And by the way, those board of directors who call you are very, very smart. We'll be back in a moment on Coast to Coast AM.